Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Can you guys hear me okay? Because somebody's
Yep,
talking.
I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me?
Whoever just said that, I can hear, yes.
You're a little quiet for me. If you can turn it up a little, I appreciate it.
Is that better?
I think so, yes.
Talking a lot today, so my voice is getting a little raspy.
We might be, Judge, we can't hear you. We might be in the same club soon.
All right, well, it helps if I take myself off mute. Okay, Chief Deputy Hughes, I'm going to swear you in, so if you'll raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
You,
Please state your name for the record.
Daniel Hughes,
And what is your current position?
a chief deputy for the sheriff's office here in Milwaukee.
And how long have you held that position?
About 3 months.
And how long have you been with the sheriff's office in total?
I'm in my 27th year.
Okay, thank you very much. Attorney Hitchcock Cross,
Has he been
questions?
sworn in?
Yes, I just did.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So, thank you. Mr. Hughes, you can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we're going to focus on a period of time about June, July, August of 2021, and before that, about a year. Okay?
Okay.
All right. What role did you hold for the? What job did you have for the sheriff's department at that time?
I would have been an inspector at that time.
Okay, and what division?
So it would have been a bureau. It was police services bureau. I had multiple divisions underneath me.
Okay. Can you describe the police services bureau?
So that would have encompassed the patrol division, the airport division, the courts division, and I also have many special teams responsibilities. Parks unit would fall under that. Civil process would fall under that. SWAT, EOD, motorcycles, all of the specialty units also would have fallen under that.
Okay, so that's a significant responsibility, correct?
Sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, did you, what role, if any, did you have, or what was your relationship with Chief Ball at that time? And of course, I'm talking professionally, but I'm just trying to understand where were you in the system here?
In the structure, she would have been my boss.
Okay, direct report or something else?
Direct report.
Okay. Okay. And do you know Frank Gladney?
I know Fred Gladney.
Yeah, how do you know him?
So he's the union president. He's been a sergeant and a deputy sheriff on the agency for as long as I've been on the agency.
Okay. And in your role as inspector, you've had training in the harassment policy, is that right?
That's correct.
How about the discrimination policy?
That's correct.
Okay. And so you know it?
That's correct.
Okay. So if somebody comes to you and reports discrimination to you, what are you required to do, if anything?
We would report it up to either internal affairs for investigation and or my boss or both.
Okay. Why would it be the professional standards only? What conditions would that happen?
I don't understand your question.
So you gave me three possible outcomes. One was you could send it to the personnel standards division, correct?
Professional standards division, yes.
Yeah, okay. And then there was two other options. You could send it to Danita Ball, or you could send it to both Danita Ball and the professional standards, right?
Well, really what I would do is I would forward it to professional standards if there was a harassment complaint and copy her or let her know that there's a complaint, yes.
Okay, how would you let her know? In writing or something else?
Could have been, I could do it in writing. I could do it over the phone, either one.
Okay. And is that your practice at that time?
I mean, I think it's case by case, but I could have done either.
Okay. And do you know James Lucky Jr.?
Yes, sir.
How do you know James Lucky Jr.?
He was a deputy sheriff for our agency.
Okay. Has Mr. Gladney ever relayed complaints by Mr. Lucky uh, to you at any time?
I think there was a complaint that happened in 2020, but I don't know that that came directly from Gladney. I think Gladney was involved in that.
Okay, then we'll back up a second. Are you aware of any complaints made by James Lucky against uh, anybody in Milwaukee County at any time?
I'm aware of a case or an incident that was in 2020 that was related to internal affairs for investigation. Yes.
Great. Tell us what you know about that complaint.
As I recall, there was a complaint that he was being harassed. It had something to do. It had something to do with his vehicle, like something was done to his vehicle, or that was his allegation, stating something to the effect of, there was a harassment thing going on with him from someone, I don't know who, and then that was like the I mean, I obviously I don't have the case in front of me, so I'm going off of memory, but there was something to that effect. The claim was harassment, and as I recall, that was pushed to internal affairs at the time. I think it may have been called Professional Standards Division. I don't remember when the name change happened for investigation.
Okay. Did he ever complain to you about a Barbie doll?
To me, no.
No, okay, we're sorry. Were you ever aware of any complaints that Mr. Lucky made about a Barbie doll?
I thought that was part of that car thing, as I recall.
Okay. So what else was a part of that card thing, if you recall?
I think that, as I recall, it was a Barbie doll perhaps at his car or on his car or something along those lines, and so that was my recollection of what it was at the time. That's about all I remember on it.
Okay. And this complaint was made in about October of 2020. Does that sound right?
I couldn't tell you the exact date, sir. I'm sorry.
Okay.
2020 sounds right. Probably the summer of 2020.
How did you become aware of this complaint?
I believe I was. Well, I know I was told about it from I think Captain Trimboli via email.
Okay. And did that email contain any attachments?
It may have, sir.
Okay. So we'll look at that document just 1 second here, if you'll bear with me.
Sure.
Is this 66?
Yes, Judge. Do you see that document?
Sir.
Okay. So is this, you received this document, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this was sent to you in the ordinary course of Sheriff's Department activity, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, you received this document along with Mr. Novotny and Miss Zillig, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and June 21st, 2020, what was your relationship in the organizational structure to Molly Zillig?
So she was the chief legal and compliance officer. So she was not in my direct vertical line. So she would have been essentially a side offshoot, and she has, internal affairs or professional standards division in the training academy under her area of responsibility.
So she's also, besides being an attorney, she has another role as well, and that role is supervisor of the professional standards division and the training academy. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Now I got it. So, Catherine Tromboli, she's a captain. Is she your subordinate at that time because you're an inspector?
So yeah, she would have been a subordinate, correct?
Okay. And what about Mr. Lucky? Where would he have been under your command? If
Well,
anywhere.
I mean, he was likely at patrol division, although I would say we move people around a lot. So honestly, I can't remember exactly where he was, but I would assume he's patrol. Yeah, no, he would have been patrol at this time.
Okay.
Yes, patrol. Sorry.
So, in June 21st of 2020, why would well, I guess let's be clear. Did you review the document that Tromboli sent to you?
I mean, yeah, I would have.
Okay, and you read the whole thing, is that right? At that
I
time?
likely would. Yeah, I would believe I would have, because I think if you scroll up, I saw that it was forwarded to my boss. So I'm sure I read it at the time. Yes.
Okay. So this is you, after you read it, it's fair to say that you forwarded it to Danita Ball, correct?
Yes, based on the audit trail. Yes.
Okay. And then did you have any conversations with Danita Ball about this?
I I honestly don't remember if I had a follow up conversation or not.
Okay. I'm going to share with you what's marked as our Exhibit 20. Have you seen this document before?
I believe I have.
Okay.
Yes.
How did you see how did you see this document before?
I couldn't tell you. I mean, I would be making an assumption if I told you the avenue, but I recall seeing that photo with the doll in the mailbox. That I stated earlier was on the car, but now I do recall that. Yes.
Okay. So in what context did you see that?
I thought that was part of the referral, the IA referral that I previously stated.
Okay. So you have direct knowledge that Mr. Lucky's Barbie doll and car complaints were sent to Internal Affairs, isn't that right?
Yeah, I believe they were sent to Internal Affairs for
that because-
investigation.
Did you send it to? How do you have that knowledge?
I'm trying to recall if it was that I was told verbally that it was referred, or if by virtue of the involvement of Chief Zillig in the email string, it went to Internal Affairs. I don't remember which.
Okay. I'm going to show you now our Exhibit 50. Have you seen this document before? I'm going to move it slightly.
Yeah, that's part of what I was provided by Attorney Lawrence. But it wasn't a complete version of this. It was just the first part of it.
Okay. I'm going to scroll down now. Do you recall seeing this document here?
Yeah, that's the photo you just showed me.
Okay. Is it fair to say that this is the capacity in which you saw this folder or photo was sent in this email?
No, I wouldn't jump to that conclusion because I could have been showed that video independent of that email.
Okay. But you don't recall how you were seeing that?
Sir,
Okay. How did you prepare for your deposition here today?
I received a few emails from from attorney Lawrence, and I reviewed those and had a conversation with her.
Okay. Did anybody tell you to say anything that wasn't true? Did you not hear my question?
I answered in the negative. I said, no, sir.
Okay, thank you. Was I the only one who didn't hear that?
No, I did not hear it either.
Okay.
Apologize.
No problem. No
Oh,
problem.
that's okay. Sometimes we cut in and out, so.
Yeah, one of these external speaker things, and it might not be picking everything up.
Okay. This here is our exhibit 58.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to show you the bottom of this here. Do you see this 62120 email that I'm showing to you
Yes.
here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this is the email that I showed you before with the Barbie doll attached to that. Will you accept that?
Yes.
And that's also the email that you said that you hadn't, you don't recall if you had seen that or not, correct?
I don't recall reading it,
Okay.
but
So
I
then
can see. But
I'm sorry, sir. I don't mean to interrupt you. What is your answer here?
I say I don't remember reading that in correlation with the photo.
Okay. But now I'm showing you your email or an email from Mr. Gladney to you, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And what does he say to you?
I will speak with him today about his concerns.
Okay. And who do you believe him is in that sentence?
I would believe that to be James Lucky,
Okay. Why?
because this right here below, as I read it, refers to James Lucky, right?
Okay. And you testified earlier that Mr. Gladney was both a sergeant and a union official, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. In what capacity are you talking to him? Is he emailing you here today on 6/21/2020?
Objection calls for speculation.
Does the witness know the answer?
No.
Okay. Sustained.
Okay. Well, let's be clear. How many supervisory hops is it from sergeant to inspector?
Well, lieutenant, captain, and inspector. So 3.
3. Okay. And then it's fair to say that it would be 4 up to chief deputy, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. So, were you aware of whether or not Mr. Lucky made any complaints about race at any time?
I think that was part of the internal investigation that was referred. Yes.
Okay, and because he made those, you read the complaints that he made, correct?
I guess I did. Yes.
Great.
If that was part of if that's part of the email thing that we were testifying to earlier, yes, that's what I read.
Okay. So, for example, you read, Mr. Lucky saying to you, I am addressing this issue to all because somehow when I report these issues to management, it gets ignored or it backfires in my face. Enough is enough, exclamation point. Did you read that?
I've definitely read it now. I likely read it at the time. Yes. If you're reading off an email that has my name on it, yes.
Okay. And then he also says, I am told, and you, let's put it another way, you also read that Mr. Lucky said, I am told to have thicker skin. Being black on patrol is so different. I have so many other instances documented and was brought to management's attention, but the answer is simply maybe it's you or it gets brushed off under the rug. Isn't that right?
That's what's written
Objection.
in there? What are you asking? Is that a question?
No, my question is, didn't you read that?
Yes, I likely read that. Yes.
Okay. So in fact, you did read it, right?
Well, he said he likely did, so we're going to stick with that.
Okay. So it was from that statement that you gained your awareness, if not somewhere else. Let's put it another way. Do you have any other awareness of Mr. Lucky making any race complaints?
Not that I recall, no.
No. Okay. So, based on this, did you understand that? Oh, I guess let's put it another way. What understanding, if any, do you have of the outcome of Mr. Lucky's race complaints?
I don't have any understanding. I did not read any part of that investigation or its outcome.
Okay, but you do know that it was forwarded to them, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And now, as your role here, as standing here today, do you know what happens with investigations once they're sent to internal affairs?
Yes, they get investigated.
Okay, and what happens after they're investigated?
Well, I mean, the parties who are investigating it uh, produce a work product, which is then presented to the chief deputy and or the sheriff for evaluation. And if there's something that needs to happen by way of discipline or action or retraining or whatever, then that would occur at that point.
Okay, and you have no specific knowledge of that happening in Mr. Lucky's case?
So I'm not aware of the results of that case. I'm sorry.
Okay. Do you have any supervisory role to HR?
Do I supervise HR? No, sir.
At any time, have you?
We have HR, a sheriff's office representative of HR, but they don't report to me.
Okay. Let's talk about it's possible for professional standards investigations to end up at HR, correct?
I mean, I don't know that to be correct.
Why not? Or what? Okay. So do you
I
have
don't
any
understand
knowledge?
your question.
What's your job here today? Chief deputy, right?
Yes.
Okay. As chief deputy, do you know what the possible outcomes for internal affairs investigations are?
Yeah, I just
I make a point of clarification.
Yes.
Are we talking about discipline or are we talking about a complaint, an employee complaint? I think it's getting maybe a little confused.
Now, thank you for clarifying that. Okay, Mr.
Okay.
Hughes. So it sounds like from what Ms. Lawrence testified that there are two different kinds of ways that complaints are handled. Is that true? Are employee complaints handled differently than supervisor complaints?
No, they're both handled through the internal affairs division, or I'm sorry, I refer to it as internal affairs. It's a long time I was referring to that professional standards division.
Believe me, I understand. We're both making that mistake, and I'm not helping you out there. So we'll try to do the best we can here. So okay, so you're not aware though of there's being any difference whatsoever if an employee files a complaint versus a supervisor files a complaint, as Ms. Lawrence just testified.
No.
Okay. So, is it possible for the professional standards division investigates a complaint that it is then sent to HR as opposed to discipline? Was there a distinction there?
I would say if there is, I am not familiar with that being so new to my new position. I haven't come across that as of yet.
Okay. What happens if an employee makes a complaint to HR? If you know.
I would be somewhat guessing as to the process, but I believe HR would push that up and they could do an investigation or they could push it towards us to do an internal investigation. I think there's two tracks there, perhaps, but again, I'm making some assumptions.
Explain to me what the two tracks are.
Objection. He just testified he doesn't have foundation.
Yeah, he's kind of guessing. So maybe we should move into an area where he's more familiar.
Okay, but you are aware that there is dispositions to HR, right?
I'm aware that HR does their own investigations, and I'm aware that the Professional Standards Division does investigations.
Okay. Are you aware of whether or not the Professional Standards Division's investigations preempt the HR investigations?
I'm not aware of that, sir.
Okay. Have you ever been employed by the Professional Standards Division?
No, sir.
Okay. So, let's go over this here. So, based on your understanding of the policy, what's the correct response when you receive a race-based complaint?
That I would
Question asked and answered. We covered this territory.
Not
I'm
for
gonna let him answer it. Go ahead.
that if I got a complaint, I would forward it to Internal Affairs, Professional Standards Division for investigation. And I would let my supervisor know.
Okay. Do you know who Charles Stowers is?
Yes.
Who is Charles Stowers to you?
Currently, he is a captain on our agency. He's currently assigned to the courts division.
Okay. How about February 14th of 2021? Do you know what role he had then?
I believe he was the captain at the patrol division at the time.
Okay. Do you recall if he emailed you regarding a incident with Deputy Lucky on February 13th of 2021?
Yes, I recall that.
Okay. Did you mention that before?
Objection. Foundation.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't recall him being asked that.
Who is
Don't
Mr.
recall that.
Hodel?
Hodel is a captain with our agency.
Okay. Let me ask you this question here. What knowledge do you have of any, I guess we went over complaints about Mr. Lucky. What knowledge do you have about any complaints about against Mr. Lucky by the county?
Objection. Asked and answered. Repeatedly.
Can you just ask the question again? I'm not sure that I got
Great.
the
In
whole thing.
contradistinction to the question I asked you earlier about your knowledge about complaints that Mr. Lucky made against the county, here I'm asking you now, do you have any knowledge about complaints made against Mr. Lucky?
Are you talking about disciplinary actions?
For example, yes.
Okay.
I'm going to object that it's vague. Can you define complaint?
Yeah, can you just narrow that down a little bit?
You know, I really
Attorney
resist
Hitchcock
playing this
Cross.
concern complaint game here. I mean, if he has knowledge about complaints that Mr. Lucky made, he should be able to state that. Concerns, complaints. If there's any issues that anybody had against Mr. Lucky that he's aware of, that's what we're trying to figure out.
I'm going to ask you to rephrase because I'm not following your question.
Okay. So, and I want to be clear what we're trying to do here. We have at least one email from you, sir, about communications about disciplinary activities against Mr. Lucky. Okay, so these are either investigations, and I'm asking you if you have any knowledge of any other ones.
I have knowledge of the one that involved a Sergeant Byers at patrol,
Okay.
and then this other incident, which also revolved around Sergeant Byers at patrol related to Mr. Lucky being on light duty at the time and taking a crash report. So those, I believe, are two separate things.
What, can you just go back to this first one with Sergeant Byers? It's a light duty one. I think we're all clear on that one. Can you give us any more information about the first one with Sergeant Byers?
The first one was some sort of insubordination type of case related to it had something to do with following her through a door and him making a claim that she closed the door on him or didn't hold the door for him or something along those lines.
Okay.
I remember of it.
And how were you informed of that complaint?
I don't remember.
Okay. Was it in your capacity as inspector?
So I can't answer that honestly to how I got made aware of that. It could have gone, as the sergeant, they would have reported it to their captain, and that captain could have directed it to internal affairs directly, and I could have gotten a verbal, notification, or it could have been in a written correspondence. I don't remember how I found out about that one, sir.
Okay. And these two separate complaints that were made by Sergeant Byers, she's the complainant on both of these cases, is that right?
Well, I think the first one was, yes, she was the complainant on that one.
Okay.
Second one, I don't know if that actually became a referral or not. I remember it being an incident as I reread it in this email that I was provided by counsel, but I don't remember if that ever actually became something or not.
Okay. And that first incident, was that Sergeant Byers complaining about Mr. Lucky, that Byers had assaulted Mr. Lucky with the door, or something? Or was it Mr. Lucky complaining about Sergeant Byers?
Okay, so I don't remember the word assault being used, but I think it was a result of Sergeant Byers making a complaint.
Okay. But the allegation there was that Sergeant Byers had, well, let's be clear. What is your understanding of what happened with the door, Sergeant Byers, and Mr. Lucky?
Well,
I'd like to object. Any of this would be hearsay at this point in time. He's testified he was never in internal affairs, has a vague recollection of being told it, but there's no personal knowledge here.
Yeah, I think we could get that information from another witness, perhaps.
Okay. Okay, but you do have knowledge because this incident was reported to you, correct?
I have knowledge of the incident because I became aware of it. How I became aware, I don't recall, but I knew about it. So it was likely I was given either a verbal or a written notification.
Okay, and after you were notified, what steps did you personally take?
Objection, foundation.
Well, we can ask him, did he take any steps that he recalls?
I would have to be presented with documents to verify what I did, or if it was just handled by the captain at the division at the time.
Okay, so it's fair to say you don't remember, correct?
Correct.
Okay. But it's also fair to say that you recall what the nature of the incident with the door, Mr. Lucky and Sergeant Byers is, correct?
Objection. Misstates evidence.
All we're doing, Judge, is asking him what his memory is.
Well, I think he already established that he has some recollection of an incident with the door, and that he did not recall it being an assault.
He didn't say, no, I need to be clear for the notes here. He said he didn't recall that word assault being used.
Right.
Right. So if we're going to let him testify to that, we got to recall. He should be able to say what happened. So that's why we're trying to figure out, was there a touching, was it welcome, and so forth. Okay?
Objection. Foundation.
Well,
He has not
he couldn't
testified.
have
He
more
doesn't-
foundation. He just testified that he was told about the thing. So that's, if he doesn't know, he can easily say that he doesn't know. The remedy isn't to interrupt with objections constantly.
I guess I want to know where we're going with this, if you would enlighten me.
Sure. So we've got a couple. So what we have here is now we've uncovered another complaint, apparently by Mr. Lucky, and there is. I mean, we'll get into the details of what happened here, but there's an allegation by Mr. Lucky that Sergeant Byers assaulted him with a door. Okay, so that is a totally new complaint that we haven't heard of yet, and he's got the evidence, but he knows about this. So far we've got the Barbie doll complaint. So far we've got the bee complaint. We've got the car scratch complaint, and here's another one by Mr. Lucky here that this man has knowledge of directly that we haven't heard before. And Mr. Novotny didn't say anything about this, and that's why we're trying to get onto. It's a very serious allegation, and it doesn't seem like anything was done. It also doesn't, it seems like what happened, in fact, was they charged Mr. Lucky with something, investigated Mr. Lucky instead of investigating Ms. Byers. So let's really, this man is in top level here at the county, and that's the heart of the whole matter, really, and ultimately, is whether or not Mr. Lucky's discrimination complaints were fairly and accurately addressed, or in fact, he was made to suffer to go through all of his employment at the county with a black letter on his back, and he's being treated differently than everybody else. That's what we're trying to find out here. So if in fact he is being assaulted and the remedy is that he's getting investigated, we need to know that. So that's what's going on. I also need to say, just generally speaking, that these objections are counterproductive. They are not, I mean, even the hearsay is allowed. The remedy here is quite clear that what's supposed to be happening is that we're supposed to get this evidence in so that in a timely fashion, and that's not what's happening here. And I mean, we've spent almost as much time objecting as we've had testifying. And I think that's really what the problem is here. He's got all the foundation in the world. He says he's got personal knowledge that somebody told him of what happened. Okay, it's hearsay. Guess what? Hearsay is allowed. So that's what the problem is that, you know, we're being hamstringed here, the A, but B, the rules from Lurk are really clear that the concept is to let in as much evidence and let Lurk make the decision, and that these constant objections are just wasting time, and that we could all, I mean, it's really just another tax on Mr. Lucky. These constant objections are just making him waste more time off of work. This man has testified already that he has knowledge of what was reported to him. He is in a position of power. He is in a position to make these investigations and order people and tell them what to do. It's not clear that he did that or even remembers doing that. So now we need to find out what he knows about this incident, what happened, and what he did about it. Because Chief Deputy Ball says that she didn't remember anything about this. He's the first person who says that he knows something about it. So we need to know what happened, what his knowledge is, what happened with the door. I get it that the county doesn't want this issue to come out, that a sergeant assaulted a deputy and they did nothing about it, even though they were told all about it. Makes perfect sense to me. I wouldn't want to get that out there either. I might even make speaking objections like my learned colleague is doing and try to, inform the witness that he should not talk here. But I think it's clear that we're entitled to all witnesses' evidence. We're certainly entitled to this man's evidence when he is clearly laid the foundation that he has all the knowledge necessary to testify to this. And that we're frankly, again, we're just wasting time.
For the most part, Your Honor, I'd like to let the record speak for itself. However, Attorney Hitchcock's cross highly inaccurate diatribe does misstate the evidence as to what Mr. Hughes has already testified, which was the foundation for my objection. He has not testified that he had personal knowledge, only that he was told by somebody that this incident occurred. By all means, carry on.
Grand. Okay, let's do it. Can you answer the question, please, sir?
You'll have to restate that question, please.
You were aware that there was an incident between Mr. Lucky, Miss Byers, and a door, correct?
Yes, I'm aware of.
What is your awareness?
My awareness is that there was, I believe it was an insubordination claim by Sergeant Byers against Deputy Lucky related to that incident.
Okay, good. We'll start there. So there was a insubordination claim, and this is directly by Byers. Okay. Then,
here's what I found.
Geez, sorry, guys. Then the next question is, what was alleged to have occurred involving Mr. Lucky, Sergeant Byers, and a door?
So the only thing I can recall right now is it had something to do with them walking through a doorway down a hallway and a claim that Sergeant Byers somehow let a door close on Deputy Lucky, and then Deputy Lucky said something to provoke an insubordination claim.
Okay. So can you explain more about your understanding of Sergeant Byers letting a door close on Mr. Lucky?
Not offhand. I don't recall the specifics of it.
Okay. Do you have any understanding of what the outcome of Sergeant Byers' complaint against Mr. Lucky was?
No.
Okay. And did you forward the information on to Mr. Lucky's I'm sorry. Long day. Are you able to tell us what the disposition of that complaint is? The
No,
allegation
sir.
that Mr. Lucky was insubordinate.
No, sir.
Okay.
Your Honor, if I may renew my objection as to the scope.
Mm-hmm.
We had a motion to quash specifically to prevent this kind of fishing expedition. I understand that hearsay, there is a broad range in hearsay here, but we're literally eliciting uncorroborated testimony here. Uncorroborated hearsay is beyond what is allowed under their decisions. And quite frankly, this is what discovery should have been for. He should have taken a deposition if he wanted to know this stuff in advance. Now is not the time for that. So we once again object to the scope of this testimony and ask that Chief Deputy Hughes be allowed to return to his work.
How many more questions do you have, Attorney Hitchcock?
I wouldn't say too much more, but we've got the right to ask questions here. So
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to allow a few more questions.
Great. So I'm going to show you this document here. we've seen this again. Okay? Who is Mr. Hodel?
Hodel is a captain of our agency.
Okay? So, this is from you to Mr. Stowers, correct?
Yes.
And you've seen this document before?
Yes.
Okay, because you sent it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then you say to Mr. Stowers, are you sure that the things you guys are having him do are not outside of his light duty restrictions? Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. What do you understand about this issue with Mr. Lucky and the light duty restrictions?
So this is, I believe, part of the email string related to the other incident I referred to earlier about Mr. Lucky being on light duty at patrol and taking crash reports from what we call walk-ins, which basically means someone was involved in a crash and they were able to drive away, but they still want a crash report taken. And therefore, especially during snowstorms, we refer them to report to the patrol division to have a report taken so as not to take away from deputies responding during, volatile or inclement weather times. So it's frequent that we have light duty personnel take walk-in, or it's regular practice that we have walk-ins go and light duty personnel take those crash reports.
Just so you're aware, Attorney Cross, you're sharing your email account with us.
Whoa, appreciate that. Okay, so the problem is I'm on the wrong screen here. So we've got 86 is what I'm trying to say. So you instructed Mr. Stowers to have a conversation with Hodel. Is that right?
I don't recall that at all.
Okay. Well, then let's look at the document.
And which document are we on?
This is 86.
Okay.
Oh, I see. Okay, I see what you're referring to.
Okay, and what incident is the 12/13/21 incident?
Okay, so I'm not sure on the dates and what incident we're referring to. I mean, I literally could not tell you what date, the incident date that is for.
Okay.
But clearly I'm referencing it at the time, so.
Okay. So this is 12/20 2/13/21. That's after October of 2020, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So it's fair to say that after Mr. Lucky filed his original complaint with Ms. Tromboli, that then he was accused of insubordination, correct?
Yeah, if we're talking about the Byers case, yes, I believe that happened in 21. That may be what this is referring to, perhaps.
So far you've told us of 2 Byers cases. What else is out there?
Objection, Your Honor. Scope.
Are you aware of anything else out there, Deputy
No,
Hughes?
oh man.
Okay, so you just said the Byers one, but there wasn't any other Byers. There is no other complaint. Is that right, that you know of?
We're confusing complaints and incidences. The first incident, I believe, what resulted in an insubordination complaint. This is another incident in which references a potential another instance of insubordination, but I don't know if this made it to a complaint or not.
Okay, so the first incident is the door incident, and the second incident is this light duty restriction incident. Do I understand that right?
Yes, that's how I recall it.
Okay. And did both of these actions occur after Mr. Lucky complained to Tromboli?
Can you give me the Tromboli date again?
October
I'm sorry.
2020.
Yes, sir.
They both did. Is that correct? Okay. Okay. Now, looking down below, Mr. Stowers sends you an email saying this has become a real problem, I think.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, I'm going to focus in on the language has become a real problem. You see that language? Okay. Does that mean that there was that the incidents are now escalating, or something else?
No, I think how I took it was that he's got another incidence of insubordination.
Okay. And so this is from Sarah Byers, and she doesn't just send this to. I guess what's the normal way to make a complaint against a subordinate deputy?
Well, I mean, so it can happen, quite honestly, a couple different ways. If a sergeant is doing an internal affairs reference, or usually it goes up to the division commander, which would have been the captain of the division at the time. Sometimes the captain of the division will forward that directly to internal affairs. And on other times, they will come to an inspector for review. Sometimes it depends on availability, process. It could happen either way. Either way, it could go up to internal affairs. It doesn't have to touch the inspector position in order to go.
Okay. And so, but you give specific instructions about what to do here, right?
Yes.
Okay. What were those instructions?
Well, my concern was, are we having him do something? First of all, my concern as he's an employee is that he's on light duty. And if he has restrictions, are we having him do something outside of his restrictions, which, would hinder his injury recovery? Because the ultimate goal is to get our personnel back to work. So my concern was that, number one, are we working outside of the restrictions that were stated from HR due to his injury? And if so, that's a problem, because he could re-injure himself or prolong the injury.
Okay. How did you become aware of the light duty restrictions from HR?
Well, I mean, anytime somebody is on light duty, they have restrictions. I don't think I had specific knowledge of his restrictions, which was why I was asking the question.
Okay. And what kind of restrictions are these?
Well, I don't know. I don't have the restrictions in front of me.
No, but you were aware of them at one time, is that right?
No, I'm asking what the restrictions were so that whatever assignment we're giving him at the division on light duty corresponded with the restrictions set forth by the doctor in HR.
Okay. So this is 80, document 80, Judge?
All right.
All right. What's the date of this document, sir?
11/25 of 20.
Okay, and it's from Mary Rozak. Do you see that? I'm sorry, I may not have heard the answer. Did you respond?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Yes. Okay. So it's from Mary Rozak. What position does she hold at the county?
So she's the HR representative for the sheriff's office.
Okay. And Danita Ball, she's your supervisor at that time, right? Right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
All right.
Are
And
you
you're
guys
Daniel Hughes, correct?
Are you guys not hearing me? I'm sorry.
Not with those
You're,
simple
you're
answers.
cutting in and out sometimes.
Okay.
I apologize. I'll try to speak louder into this thing.
So this is 11/25 of 2020, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and this is after Mr. Lucky's October 2020 complaint, correct?
Yes.
And then before the February 2021 incident, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So it says Chief Deputy Ball and Inspector Hughes, correct?
Correct.
And Deputy Lucky has restrictions due to a right ankle injury that requires sit-down work only through December 2nd. Please advise if you approve light duty post for him at patrol. Thank you. Do you see that?
Correct.
Okay. Do you
Yes,
have
I see
knowledge
that.
of whether or not you or Janita Ball approved light duty requirements at that time?
I likely did as a result of that question.
Okay. So at this time, you had knowledge. Let's be really clear here. At 11/25 of 2020, you had knowledge of Mr. Lucky's restrictions, correct?
Yes, I would have been made aware of it at that time.
Okay.
Yes.
And did you forget that on February of 2021?
It's likely I didn't remember because I get many, many light duty requests
Okay.
for approval.
But again, you would have been the one to approve this, right?
Well, the way it was working during this administration is that Mary Rozak would ask both of us. I, from an operational point of view, would try to find a place to place the officer that theoretically would comply with his or her restrictions. And then I would make a recommendation to the chief deputy as far as where I wanted that person placed. And then the chief deputy would approve it or deny it theoretically.
Okay. So now we're going to go back to Exhibit 86 here, and you're talking about if you can have him do something at his desk until in the back until Wednesday, then do that, I guess. Is that along those lines? The same lines you were just discussing in the previous question?
Sorry, can you restate that for me? I apologize.
Sure. You're saying that what part of your job when you receive light duty restriction requests is to figure out where that person can be assigned to, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So here we're looking at 2/14 of 2021.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So this is 3 months later, and then it says if you are doing that, you may not have a leg to stand on. Is that right?
Yes.
Was that a joke about Mr. Lucky's ankle?
No, sir.
Okay, what did that mean?
That meant if we're having him do something outside of his restrictions and he gets hurt, we're going to find ourselves getting in trouble for that.
Okay. So it's fair to say, based on that, on 2/14 to 21, you knew what his light duty restrictions were. And in fact, you were warning people that they might not want to press this insubordination claim because of his light duty restrictions, correct?
Oh, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay. So what does a leg left to stand on mean?
That means we would be in trouble for having him do something that does not comply with his restrictions. So I wanted Captain Stowers to verify the restrictions.
Well, but not only that, sir, you had awareness at this time that Sergeant Barr was filing insubordination charges against Mr. Lucky, correct?
A prior one, yes.
No, and also during this light duty restriction incident, this incident here that she's sending to you and all the other commanders talking about this incident here that you see and received, correct?
Well, I think they're directly related as part of the same thing. My concern, as it was presented to me, was, there's an insubordination going on, but also we also have a problem that are we having them do something we shouldn't have them doing?
Right.
So,
So in fact, a employee of the sheriff's department, it's not insubordination if it's a lawful order, correct? Or unlawful order, correct?
I'm going to object that this line is getting very argumentative. And
I will
duplicative.
agree with that. I think he's already testified twice as to what he meant when he wrote that email.
Okay. So let's go down to the next line. You say you should verify that, and if everything is still problematic, and then have a conversation with Hodel about roping this into the other case. Did I read that right?
if everything is still problematic, then yes, rope it into another case.
Okay, it
Have
doesn't
a
say another
conversation
case.
with.
It says the other case, correct?
It says have a conversation with Hodel about roping this into the other case.
Yeah. What does roping this into the other case mean to you?
To me, that means if he had a standing insubordination case already in process, and we have another instance where perhaps because his restrictions did not, he was not, or let me rephrase that. So if we were having him do something that was in line with his restrictions and he was being insubordinate, then I was giving direction to talk to Hodel about the possibility of making that an addendum to that other case. So another case of insubordination.
Okay. Does Mr. Stowers say that there's any incident with an issue with insubordination?
No, not in his comment.
No. Okay. So how did you think that this was an insubordination issue that needed to be roped in with the other insubordination case?
Well, based on the reading of the email that is below from Sergeant Byers, he was essentially refusing a direction from her to take what we call walk-in crash complaint
Okay.
or crash report.
Okay. So at that time, it's fair to say you had knowledge of both the walk-in crash incident and the door incident, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you were advising Mr. Stowers, who is the ultimate supervisor of that shift, to file charges against Mr. Lucky for both the insubordination that's going on and this case as well.
So he's the division commander, not the shift commander. I know that's a nuance, but it's valid. He's a division commander for patrol. And yes, I said, according to this, based on that incident, if he runs it past Hodel to see if it's worthy of creating another case.
Okay.
So basically, it's a touch base with Hodel.
So when you
first.
say if you paren they close paren, who are you referring to there?
Can you
First
articulate
line,
that again?
Second sentence.
First line, second sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see what you're saying. If you they are doing that, that's referring to him as the commander of the division, patrol division where Deputy Lucky was assigned on light duty, and the sergeant or sergeants who had been the line supervisor directly over Deputy Lucky. That's who you and they refer to.
So you mean Mr. Stowers and Miss Byers, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So it's fair to say then that you're advising Mr. Stowers and Miss Byers to review whether or not they've got a leg to stand on before they pursue these charges of insubordination against Mr. Lucky, correct?
Well, I'm telling them to see if they have a leg to stand on with regard to the restrictions, and yes, probably with proceeding. Because if he's refusing to do something that are outside of his restrictions, that would not be necessarily insubordination.
Right, because that
Depends.
would be an illegal order, correct?
It would be an order that is, would be in contradiction to the doctor's orders, yes.
Okay. So I'm going to pause that for a second. Did you speak to Mr. Hughes or Mr. Gladney about race discrimination with concerns that Mr. Lucky had been raising?
I don't recall speaking to him about race relations as it pertains to Lucky specifically, no.
Okay. So let's look at this document here. Do you see this document? And this is 57.
Yes.
Okay. And this is an email from Mr. Gladney to James Lucky. Is that right?
Yes.
And the subject is the bullying bullying which is you've been copied on emails with that subject line, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And it says, Mr. Gladney says here, I have been speaking with Hughes about some of your concerns, and we currently working on diversity, sensitivity, and racial equality training. Did I read that right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you speak with Mr. Gladney about working on diversity?
So the content. So number one, I don't remember a specific conversation about working on diversity sensitivity training like it pertained to Lucky. What I recall is that this I believe was a time in which the county was providing training on diversity, sensitivity, etc., and that was being contemplated by the sheriff's office about whether or not we were going to proceed with that or not.
Okay. Did you talk to
And I think
Mr.
under
Excuse me?
I think at that time when this was happening, that was being debated at higher levels than myself.
When was the last time you saw this document, sir?
This I have that was included in my packet given to me by Attorney Lawrence
What day did you review that?
this morning.
Okay, so it's fair to say your testimony on these documents are affected by your testimony here today is affected by your review of those documents this morning, correct?
I reviewed the document, yes.
Okay, and that affected your recollection, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Did you ever discuss sensitivity with Mr. Gladney?
I don't recall specific sensitivity discussion, no.
Okay. And this is again in regards to Lucky's concerns, correct?
Objection. That misstates the evidence.
Well, do you ever know that Mr. Gladney to lie?
Objection. Again misstates the evidence.
Right. Where are you going with this? He testified he doesn't specifically remember talking to Mr. Gladney about Mr. Lucky.
Right.
On
Well,
respect
Mr.
to
Gladney
race.
here is saying that he did, and he's specifically saying that he talked to him about racial equality. So he said he doesn't recall about diversity. Then we got to sensitivity. Now we're going to go to racial equality. So, sir, do you have any recollection of talking to Mr. Gladney about racial equality?
So I have no recollection of a specific conversation.
Okay. What recollections do you have of unspecific conversations?
So I recall at the time we were debating as an agency actually above my level about whether or not training such as diversity, sensitivity, and racial equality was going to happen as provided by the county. And that may have come up in conversation, but I don't remember specifics of it. I don't remember when. I don't even remember the full content or scope of that. And I probably said something to the effect of, the counties or the sheriff's office is contemplating this type of training.
Okay. But that's again, this is in 214 of 21. This is specifically in regards to Mr. Lucky, correct?
Objection. Asked and answered. Misstates the evidence and lack of foundation.
Let me be clear that. So you're saying
Thank you.
that the county wasn't doing anything specifically in regards to Mr. Lucky's complaints, that these sensitivity, equality, and racial diversity issues were all general, right?
Objection. Misstates the evidence, lack of foundation, and argumentative at this point.
I will sustain those objections.
On lack of foundation, what, on all grounds or what?
Yes. I think it's argumentative, and I do think that it misstates the testimony and the evidence in the record.
Well, he's a party opponent. I'm allowed to be argumentative.
Well, I understand that, but let's move on.
Well, okay. I mean, we have a right, and you're admitting it, and yet I mean, I will appreciate the feedback, and I get all that, but this is, I mean, we've got an admission here that we've just all of the argumentative sustains on the record here were a mistake, and I think we now need to go back and be able to ask all of our questions based on the argumentative, and specifically to this guy here. I mean, we have the right to ask questions of party opponents, and we don't have to be friendly about it. So we're willing to play that game for Miss Ball because of her role as sheriff, but not here.
Objection. Again, misstating the evidence. You don't have a right to misstate in what he said. Also, we're going to renew our objection to scope at this point in time. The ALJ certainly has the authority to move this hearing along. It's clear that you should have done discovery and didn't. This is not the time for it. Using up valuable time of a high-level county employee who needs to be doing other things.
So this is sort of this concept here that we are required to do discovery, otherwise we can't raise the issue at hearing. That's just, I've seen nothing that supports that argument. It's simply not the law. And what she's advocating for is a burden on workers here. Now, the reason that workers go to the ERD in theory is because although punitive or non-economic damages are off the table, that this is supposed to be a worker-friendly forum. Okay, that means that there are relaxed rules of evidence, that it is supposed to be a lower cost forum, and those are specifically the trade-offs that we are getting here by being in the ERD. We could have gone to federal court, and she could have made these objections, but we are the masters of the complaint, and we chose not to do that. So to the extent that they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, and to try to have both ways, meaning restricting the complaint here, and say that we are not allowed, I mean, the rules of evidence that she's proposing, again, are simply not what LERC or the ERD, and certainly not what the WIFA envisions. And to go along with that, and for example, to say that this is being argumentative when it's clear that I can be argumentative, there's a problem there.
I refer counsel to Dennis v. Walmurray, LERC 51311, and as I've cited numerous times today, Payne v. City of Milwaukee 93002. Additionally, Greco v. Snap-on Tools, LERC 52704.
Yeah, not one of those stands for the proposition that you are not allowed to have a person testify to something because you could have had it in discovery. That's preposterous. What they do stand for is the proposition that an ALJ has the right to control the hearing within certain parameters. Okay? And one of the parameters that they're talking about in those cases is volume. But again, if you look at Burton, if you look at Brown, if you look at those decisions, it's very clear that what's supposed to happen is the complainant is supposed to be allowed to put on their case. If you, being an experienced attorney, are then expected, because there's not a jury here, so then you're able to sift and winnow through the evidence. That's what we're supposed to have happen here. Mr. Lucky is supposed to have his day in court. He's supposed to be able to put on his evidence. And I mean, I think we've largely been able to do that. I just need to point out again and again and again that they were just wasting time here. And that really a proper direction for the use of the limited discretion available to a hearing examiner is to instruct the respondent to stop making these objections that are just wasting time. Again, argumentative, as you know, is not an objection that can be made here.
All right. First of all, I don't want counsel to be arguing with each other. I understand the need to represent your clients vigorously, but we can still maintain a nice civil decorum here. I would like you, Attorney Hitchcock-Cross, to, zero in on exactly what it is you are wanting to get out of this witness so that we can have sufficient time for Attorney Lawrence to also ask questions of him. You had indicated earlier that you only had a few more questions, so I'm just trying to get us to the point where we're able to move on from this witness.
Great. I'll try to be as concise as possible. You spoke to Sheriff Ball about this case, didn't you?
About which part?
About the Barbie doll incident.
I don't recall if I spoke to her or not at that time.
Okay.
I believe I did it through an email. I think I forwarded the email.
Okay. Did you speak to her about the door incident?
I don't recall.
Okay. Did you speak to her about the bee incident?
I have no idea what the bee incident is.
Okay. Are you aware of the email in which Mr. Lucky makes complaints about his coworkers putting bees in his area, even though they know he's allergic to bees?
No.
Okay. But you did receive the email?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So, did you receive the Tromboli complaint?
I received the email that Trimboli sent, yes.
Okay. But you didn't review her complaint, or the document that was attached to it, in which she summarizes Mr. Lucky's her conversation with Mr. Lucky?
I have not had the opportunity to look at those attachments, so I don't recall. That's 2 years ago.
Well, you didn't read them this morning, for example? Yes or no, sir? N-O?
N-O, no.
Okay.
I do not have the attachments. I simply have the portions of emails, not even full email strings, it looks like.
Okay. Did you speak to her about the walk-in incident, the light duty incident, Chief Ball?
Not that I recall.
Okay. Did you speak to her about any of Mr. Lucky's complaint?
You know, I may have. I have conversations frequently with my boss, and it could have come up in conversation, but I don't specifically recall doing it. No.
Okay. Well, otherwise, is it fair to say that Mr. Lucky's complaints ended at your position?
Which complaints are you referring to?
All the incidents that we just talked about that you didn't talk to Chief Ball about.
No, they were forwarded to Internal Affairs.
Okay. And what about Mr. Lucky's complaints? Did you talk to Chief Ball about any of those?
His complaint was forwarded to Internal Affairs.
Okay. And did you talk to Chief Ball about it?
Don't recall.
Okay. What about the door incident? Did you talk to her about that?
Again, I believe that one was referred to Internal Affairs. I don't remember if I specifically had a conversation with her about it or not.
Okay, but it is fair to say that you only looked at the door incident with regard to Miss Byers' complaint and not Mr. Lucky's complaint, correct?
The job of Internal Affairs is to determine or have an investigation and to investigate it fully. So my expectation is they would have interviewed both parties and any relevant witnesses to come to a conclusion.
Okay. And it's also fair to say that one or more of your subordinates made you aware of Mr. Lucky's race complaints, correct?
As it relates to the email from Trimboli, yes.
Okay. And what are your responsibilities under policy once you receive those complaints, if you know?
Action. We've already covered all of this territory.
I tend to agree with that.
Okay, but under the policy, all you have to do is forward that to Internal Affairs, and then you have no more requirement or something else.
So Internal Affairs is independent side. I do not even get the results of Internal Affairs unless there is a publication of discipline. So I don't normally even know what happens in those cases.
Okay. Hopefully this is the last line here. Are you aware of whether or not the Sheriff's Department at any time removed Mr. Lucky's arrest authority from him?
I don't. I don't have direct knowledge of that. No,
Okay, what indirect knowledge of that do you have?
any knowledge of it.
Okay, now it went from direct to no knowledge. Is that right?
I have no knowledge of it.
Okay. Anything else you want to ask him?
No, I was saying like if you was aware of the light duty policy.
He was, yeah.
Right, and then it states that you know, asked him like, was my badge? You know, I wasn't able to have a vest on, no gun.
Okay. So when he was on light duty, was Mr. Lucky allowed to wear his uniform?
No,
No. Was he allowed to display a badge?
no,
Carry a firearm?
I don't believe so.
How about operate an emergency vehicle?
No,
Engage in outside employment?
not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Is taking a police report a peace officer power?
Yes,
Okay. So he could otherwise be limited in his ability to employ their peace officer power. Isn't that right?
can you restate that? I'm sorry.
Sure. For example, removing his gun, removing his uniform, removing his ability to display a badge or operate an emergency vehicle or engaging in outside employment, those are all things that would happen for light duty restriction, correct?
Not necessarily.
Okay. Is that what happened for Mr. Lucky in this case?
I do not know if that happened for him or not.
Well, you're the one who would have made that decision, correct?
Oh, that's usually done by. I mean, I think what you're referring to is a suspension of arrest powers, and that would have been taken place at internal affairs. It can happen at division if there's a need, but generally on light duty. And the reason why I'm saying this is because there's been different opinions of that over the years with different sheriffs,
Mm-hmm.
but we have not been suspending people's arrest powers unless there's something pertaining to the injury that would, I guess, dictate that.
Okay. So if Mr. Lucky is in civilian clothes, is he allowed to take police reports?
If he was a civilian or in civilian clothes on light duty assignment as a deputy sheriff, yeah, he would be able to take a police report.
Would he have a badge?
He may have it in his possession.
No, but he wouldn't be effective, correct?
Effective, what do you mean? I'm
He couldn't
sorry.
arrest anybody. He couldn't investigate crime other than a way that a regular person could investigate crime, correct? He had no police powers, correct?
He would not be putting hands on people, but he could go through the administrative portion of the police work.
Okay. So it's fair to say he couldn't investigate, correct?
That's not fair to say. He could investigate a crash because that's an administrative, essentially an administrative function. He's taking information from a citizen and putting it on a report form.
How would that citizen know that he was a member of a law enforcement officer?
Well, he could introduce himself as Deputy Lucky,
Okay.
and they're coming to the police station to get that done. He may have had his ID card hanging around his neck indicating that he's an officer,
Right.
even though he's on light duty.
Okay. And what happens if the citizen becomes combative for any reason?
We would call for other officers or people who are inside the station would come out and respond, potentially,
Okay. And how do you know that?
because that's what I would do.
Okay. Great. So you have as much knowledge that would happen. You're speculating, in other words, correct?
Yeah, I'm speculating what I would do.
Okay. 1 second here. Anything else?
Yeah, but I mean, the person became combative, it'd be too late.
Don't worry about it. It's done. Don't worry about that.
Okay.
Okay. Great. Sir, I thank you for your service and testifying here today. I'm ready to pass the witness.
Attorney Lawrence, do you have questions for this witness?
I do not. Thank you, Your Honor.
You do not? Okay. All right, Chief Deputy, you may go. Thank you very much for your time today. Appreciate it.
All right.
Okay. All right, we're at 4:28. So I will deal first thing in the morning with all of the exhibits because I want to make sure I know exactly which exhibits I'm ruling on. So I'm going to go through them one more time. Is there anything else that we need to address tonight before we break for the evening?
Not from
Well,
complaints.
I guess I would guess what we're doing tomorrow.
Okay.
We're putting on our case.
All right. Do you have do you know of the witnesses that you'll be calling?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Do you want to share those with us
We've
now? or-
already done that at the pre-hearing. We've had extensive discussions with opposing counsel on this, and it's getting really abusive here. We've discussed this. We've planned it out. If she wants to have us to be flexible, if she's got some time, somebody that she wants to arrange, she can let us know, and we'll be happy to accommodate them, just like we did today.
So at this time, then, the only witnesses the county is aware of are those for the PRB hearing, the discipline matter, which Your Honor has already ruled is not relevant to this charge. We would again renew our motions to quash those individuals. Those individuals are Adam Gilmore, Dan Dennehy, Greg Renz, Laura Molligod, and Michaela Zimmer.
That is granted. That motion is granted.
Okay. Anything else?
So, no, I trust tomorrow we'll be hearing from Smoot, Holton. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We'll see you in the morning.